Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore one of history's more claustrophobic ideas. We're talking about the Oubliette, a French word that literally means the forgotten place. It's a concept so chillingly simple, a prison from which there is no escape, a tomb for the living. It's where you're put when someone wants the world to simply forget you ever existed. So, fair warning, if this were real, your odds of seeing tomorrow, well, let's just say they're not great. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, I'd love to see where you're listening from. Drop your city and the current time in the comments below. It's always cool to see how this little community of ours spans the globe. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The day begins like any other, which is to say, it begins with mud. You pull on your worn leather shoes, already stiff with the dried muck from yesterday, and the first step out of your small, timber-framed home is into a street that's more of a shallow, oozing trench than a proper road. The air, thick with the smell of wood smoke, damp earth, and the not-so-subtle aroma of the tannery downwind, is the only air you've ever known. It's a perfectly normal, overcast Tuesday, or is it a Wednesday? The days tend to blur together. You're so focused on the hazards from above and below that you don't see the man until it's too late. He's well-dressed, in a fine wool double the color of wine, and he walks with an air of someone who expects the street to part for him. You, unfortunately, are in his way. The collision is minor, a slight bump of shoulders. You stumble, he does not. You start to stammer an apology, but his face is already a mask of fury. His hand, adorned with a silver ring, flashes out and shoves you hard. You slip in the mud and land on your backside, the parcel of leather skittering into a puddle. Humiliation is a hot flush on your cheeks. But before you can even process the injustice, two guards clad in the local lord's livery are on you. They must have been part of his entourage. They haul you to your feet with a roughness that tells you this is not a negotiation. He assaulted me. The well-dressed man snarls, pointing a finger at you. It's a lie. A ridiculous, bald-faced lie, but the guard's grips tighten. You try to protest, to explain that it was an accident, that you meant no harm. But your words are just noise to them. They see your muddy clothes and his fine wool, and their conclusion is already drawn. You're being dragged through the street now, away from the direction of the merchant, away from the familiar smells of your neighborhood. The faces of the townsfolk you pass are a mixture of pity, fear, and a deliberate, self-preserving lack of interest. You try to appeal to some sense of fairness, some common law, but you're quickly learning that justice can be a very flexible concept. Historians still debate how much of medieval law was truly codified and accessible to the common person, versus how much was simply the arbitrary will of the local lord on any given day. From the grim set of the guard's jaws, it feels very much like you've stumbled into the latter. They don't take you to a courthouse or a magistrate. They take you towards the one place that looms over the entire town, its stone silhouette a constant reminder of power and permanence, the castle. The accusation is insane, but the speed at which your fate is sealed is even more so. There's no jury of your peers, no wise, grey-bearded judge weighing evidence. There is only a cramped, stone-walled antechamber in the castle gatehouse, a burly captain of the guard with a magnificent but intimidating mustache, and your accuser, who now has a name, Sir Renaud, a cousin of the Lord himself. That single fact seems to be all the evidence required. You are shoved onto a rough wooden bench, your hands still caked with the street's filth. Sir Renaud paces before you, his expensive leather boots clicking softly on the flagstones. He recounts the assault, his version growing more elaborate with each telling. Now, you didn't just bump into him, you apparently lunged at him with a wild look in your eye, a clear attempt on the life of a nobleman. It's a performance, and HES the only actor on stage. Clumsy accident, but each time you open your mouth, the captain silences you with a sharp glare that could curdle milk. This is what passes for justice. It's a swift, brutal pantomime of a legal process. Many people imagine medieval trials as grand affairs, perhaps with witches and dunking stools, which did happen, but the reality for most common folk, especially for petty or perceived crimes against the nobility, was often far more efficient. The concept of habeas corpus, the right to be brought before a judge and know the charges against you, wouldn't be firmly established in English law for centuries, and even then, its application was inconsistent. For now your body is very much not your own, it belongs to the Lord, and by extension to this furious man in the wine-colored doublet. What do you have to say for yourself, boy? The captain finally grunts, though his tone suggests there is no right answer. You look at him, then at Sir Renaud, whose face is a smug mask of indignation. You see it in their eyes, the decision has already been made. Your guilt was determined the moment your muddy tunic came into contact with his pristine wool. You are a lesson, an example. You are the nail, and he is the hammer. It was an accident, you say, your voice sounding small and thin in the stone room. I stumbled. Sir Renaud scoffs dramatically. A likely story. He's a ruffian, a cutthroat. Look at him. He gestures at your disheveled state, as if it's proof of a depraved character. The captain rubs his chin, the sound of his rough skin against his stubble like sandpaper. He looks you up and down, his gaze lingering on your worn shoes, your simple clothes. HES not weighing truth, HES weighing convenience. Punishing you is easy. It appears as a nobleman, reinforces the social order, and requires zero paperwork. Letting you go would mean contradicting a man with a direct line to the Lord's ear. It's not a choice at all. He's a menace, the captain declares, his voice flat and final. He needs to be put somewhere, he can't bother honest folk. The words hang in the air, cold and heavy. Somewhere. It's so vague, so chilling. A few weeks in the stocks, a public flogging. Those are things you can understand, things you can survive. But the look that passes between the captain and Sir Renaud holds something else, something colder. It's a shared, unspoken agreement. Take him, and make sure he is forgotten, Sir Renaud says, the last word spoken with a soft, deliberate relish. He turns and strides out of the room, his part in this farce complete. Forgotten. The word echoes in the sudden silence. It's a strange choice of word. Why not punished or imprisoned? The guards grab your arms again, their grip even tighter this time. They don't lead you towards the cells in the gatehouse or the main dungeon that people whisper about. They steer you deeper into the castle's belly. The air grows cooler, the light from the arrow-slit windows dimmer. Your protestations die in your throat. You are no longer a person who has had a bad day. You are a problem being solved, a piece of trash being disposed of. And you're beginning to understand that the place you're going is a place from which there is no return journey. Your outside journey has been served, and the sentence, it seems, is erasua. The journey to your final destination isn't long, but every step feels like a nail being hammered into the lid of your life. The guards, silent and impassive, drag you through a labyrinth of stone corridors. The sounds of the bustling outer bailey, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the shouts of men-at-arms that drill fade behind you, replaced by the damp, echoing quiet of the castle's inner workings. You pass storerooms smelling of grain and salted meat, a buttery where barrels of ale are stacked high, and then you descend. The stairs are steep and worn into shallow bowls by centuries of footsteps. The only light comes from a single torch held by the lead guard, its flame casting long, dancing shadows that seem to mock your terror. The air grows colder, heavier, carrying the scent of deep earth and something else, a stale, stagnant odor that catches in the back of your throat. It's the smell of a place that doesn't see the sun. You see other people in the kitchen, servants scurrying past with a basket of laundry, her eyes wide and fixed on the floor, deliberately not looking at you. A grizzled man-at-arms leans against a wall. Polishing a helmet, he watches you pass with a flicker of something that might be pity, or perhaps just morbid curiosity, before turning back to his task. You are a ghost already, a fleeting spectacle of someone else's misfortune. Their averted gazes are a kind of social death that comes before the real thing. This route, deep into the castle's foundation, is not one that many people take. Castles are often thought of as purely military structures, but they were also sprawling, self-contained communities. They were homes, administrative centers, and warehouses. Historians often create detailed maps of these structures, showing the Great Hall, the kitchens, the Lord's Solar. But there are always darker, less documented spaces on these blueprints. The space is for punishment. The stone path under your feet becomes rougher, more uneven. It's no longer the relatively smooth flagstones of the main keep, but the bare, foundational rock of the hill the castle is built upon. The walls weep with moisture, a slick, cold film that gleams in the torchlight. You can feel the immense weight of the fortress above you, the crushing man-made mountain of stone. You try to plant your feet to resist a last, desperate animal instinct to fight. It's useless. The two guards are brutes, their muscles honed by a life of martial training. They handle you with an impersonal efficiency, like you're a sack of flour, not a living, breathing person. Your brief struggle earns you a sharp blow to the back of the head with the butt of a mailed fist, and your vision whites out for a second, stars exploding behind your eyes. The fight goes out of you, replaced by a dull, throbbing pain and a wave of nausea. They drag you into a small, windowless chamber. The room is bare except for a heavy oak table and a couple of stools. It feels like a guard room, a place for off-duty soldiers to play dice and drink. But there's one feature that dominates the space, a feature that makes the cold dread in your stomach clench into a knot of ice. In the center of the floor, there is a hole. It's not a well. It's a perfect, dark square about an arm's length across, rimmed with iron. A heavy trapdoor of thick, iron banded wood lies open next to it, propped against the wall. The darkness within the square is absolute, a void that seems to drink the torchlight. It doesn't look deep, it looks bottomless. You can't hear anything coming from it. You can't smell anything but that same stagnant, earthy cold. This is your destination. This is the place for the forgotten. The stone road has laid you here to the edge of nothing. The guards shove you forward, your feet shuffling on the stone, until you are standing right at the precipice. You stare down into the black maw, and the silence from its depths is more terrifying than any scream. The room is suffocatingly small, made even smaller by the presence of the hole. It's the center of gravity, pulling all attention, all fear, into its dark heart. You can't look away from it. The iron rim is worn smooth in places, and you find yourself wondering how many other poor souls have stood exactly where you are standing, their toes inches from this abyss. The two guards release you, and for a moment you're just standing there, swaying slightly from the blow to your head. The torch is stuck into a sconce on the wall, and its flickering light makes the shadows writhe. One of the guards picks up a length of rope from the table. Your mind, sluggish with fear, jumps to a horrifying conclusion they're going to hang you. But they don't. They don't. They just stand there waiting. The captain of the guard walks in, the one with the mustache from your trial. He doesn't look at you. He walks over to the hole, peers down for a second, and then kicks a small, loose stone into it. You listen, straining your ears. You hear nothing. No faint clatter. No distant splash. Just silence. It's a chillingly effective demonstration. Sir Renaud wants this settled, the captain says, his voice flat. He finally turns his gaze on you. There's no malice in it, not anymore. Just a weary sort of finality. This is just a job for him, a distasteful but necessary part of maintaining order. He said to forget him. He gestures to the hole. The Oubliette. He says the word with a strange, almost academic detachment. Oubliette, you don't speak French, but you don't need to. The meaning is perfectly clear in the way he says it, in the way it seems to fit the suffocating emptiness of the hole at your feet. It's a word that sounds like a whisper and a final judgment all at once. The name itself, from the French oublier to forget, is a piece of chillingly direct etymology. It wasn't just a prison, its very name was its mission statement. You have any last words? The captain asks. It's a formality, a hollow piece of theater. What could you possibly say that would change anything? Who would you say it to? An appeal to his mercy? You see none in his eyes. A curse on his name. He looks like a man who has been cursed 1,000 times. You think of your father waiting for you to return to the workshop. You think of the parcel of leather lying in a muddy puddle somewhere. You think of the sun you saw this morning, pale and watery behind the clouds. It feels like a memory from another lifetime. Your throat is dry, your tongue thick. Your tongue thick. You shake your head, unable to form a single word. The captain nods, as if this is the expected answer. He gives a curt signal to the guards. There's no ceremony to it, no final push. They simply grab you, one on each arm, and maneuver you over the opening. Your feet dangle in the void. For a terrifying second, you are suspended between the world of stone and torchlight and the absolute nothingness below. You kick instinctively, your legs finding no purchase. You see the rough-hewn stone ceiling of the room, the flickering torch, the impassive face of one of the guards, his beard rough and weary. This is your last sight of the world. Then they let go. It's not a long fall. You brace for a bone-shattering impact from a great height, but it comes much sooner than you expect. Maybe 10, maybe 15 feet. But the surprise of it makes it worse. You don't have time to scream. The fall is a sudden, stomach-lurching drop in total blackness. You land with a jarring thud that knocks the wind out of you. The surface is not stone. It's soft, yet firm. It's soft, yet firm. It's dirt, damp, cold, unyielding earth. Pain flares in your ankle, a sharp, searing protest. For a moment, you just lie there, gasping for air, the impact having shocked your system into paralysis. The square of faint, flickering light high above you is your only connection to the world you just left. You see the silhouette of the captain's head as he leans over to look down. Don't worry, his voice echoes down, strangely distorted by the enclosed space. You'll have plenty of time to think about your crime. Then his silhouette disappears. You hear a heavy scraping sound, a groaning of wood on stone. The square of light begins to shrink. They are closing the trapdoor. A thick, final thump echoes through the chamber, and the last sliver of light vanishes. You are plunged into a darkness so complete, so absolute, that it feels like a physical substance. It presses in on your eyes, heavy and suffocating. The world is gone. There is no up, no down. Just the pain in your ankle, the cold of the dirt beneath you, and a silence that is louder than any scream. You have been placed in the Oubliette. You have been thrown into the place of forgetting. The trapdoor slams shut, and the sound is the most final thing you have ever heard. It's not just a door closing, it's the sound of a world ending. Your world, the faint, flickering torchlight is gone, and with it, the last vestige of everything familiar. You are now swimming in an ink-black sea, a darkness so profound it feels solid. You squeeze your eyes shut and open them again. It's a terrifying sensation, the complete and utter failure of your primary sense. You try to take a breath, but the air is different here. It's thick, heavy with the smell of damp soil, cold stone, and something else, a faint, musty odor of decay that you can't quite place. It's the smell of a place that never breathes, a lung that never exhales. The air is cold, but not biting. It's a deep, cellar-like chill that seems to seep into your bones, ignoring your clothes entirely. Pain is your first real anchor in this new reality. Your ankle throbs with a hot, insistent rhythm, a stark contrast to the cold ground. You landed badly. You gingerly try to move it, and a sharp, white-hot spike of agony shoots up your leg, making you gasp. Sprained. Broken. You have no way of knowing. You are your own physician now, and your only diagnostic tool is a blind sense of touch. You lie still for a long time, trying to process the enormity of what has just happened. The fall, the darkness, the silence. It's a sensory deprivation so total that your brain struggles to comprehend it. Without sight, your other senses begin to scramble, trying to fill the void. Your hearing first. You strain to hear something, anything. The footsteps of the guards walking away. The distant life of the castle. There is nothing, only the sound of your own breathing, loud and dragged in the oppressive quiet. The frantic beat of your own heart against your ribs sounds like a war drum. This initial silence is a strange phenomenon. Historians and archaeologists who have studied Oubliette, and there's some debate about how common the throw them in and forget the model truly was, versus its use as a more conventional solitary confinement. Note the acoustic properties of such spaces. They are often designed, intentionally or not, to be almost perfectly soundproof from the outside world. They are pockets of silence, insulated by feet of earth and stone. Panic begins to bubble in your chest, a cold, fizzy dread. This is it. This is your tomb. Not a neat hole in the ground with a headstone, but a living grave. You will die here, The thought is so huge, so horrifying, that your mind shies away from it. You push it down, focusing instead on the immediate, the pain. You try to sit up. The movement is clumsy, a graceless shuffle in the pitch black. You push yourself up with your hands, and the feeling of the ground is your first tactile exploration. It's not bare rock. It's loose earth, soft and damp, and there's something else mixed in with it. Small, hard objects. You feel one with your fingers. It's long and thin. A piece of wood. A piece of wood, a root. You bring it closer to your face, as if you could somehow see it through sheer force of will. It's a bone, small, delicate, a rat, maybe, or a bird. The realization sends a fresh shiver of fear through you. You are not the first creature to end up down here. You finally manage to push yourself into a sitting position, your back against a cold, hard surface. A wall. It's a small comfort, a single point of reference in this featureless universe. It's made of rough, uneven stone, slick with a film of moisture. You press your cheek against it, and the cold is a shock, but a real, grounding sensation. You sit there for what feels like an eternity, back pressed against the cold stone, one leg screaming in pain, your hands resting in the dirt and bone-littered floor. You have officially been forgotten. The great grinding machine of the world above has spit you out, and the trapdoor was the final closing of the books. There will be no rescue, no appeal. Sir Renaud got his wish. You have fallen out of the world and landed in a place that doesn't even have a name on a map. You've just taken your first breath in the land of the forgotten, and the silence that answers you is absolute. Now that the initial shock has subsided, your brain, desperate for input, begins to recalibrate. The absolute blackness is no longer just a void, it's a canvas. Your mind starts to play tricks on you. Faint, ghostly phosphors swim in your vision, shapeless blobs of grey and dull purple. They're called phosphenes, the sensation of light when there is none, generated by the random firing of neurons in your visual cortex. It's a biological quirk, a feature, not a bug. But right now, it feels like the beginning of madness. You blink, but the faint light show continues, a private, meaningless aurora borealis behind your eyes. With sight rendered useless, your other senses are screaming for attention. Hearing is the most prominent. The silence is so complete that it has a presence. Oh wait, you can hear the soft, wet sound of your own blinking. You can hear the whisper of air as it enters your nostrils. And then there's the internal symphony, the thumping of your heart, the gurgle and churn of your stomach, and a faint high-pitched ringing in your ears. This is tinnitus, the sound of silence itself, the baseline noise of your own auditory system. You've probably had it your whole life, but it was always masked by the noise of the world. Now, in this profound quiet, it's a constant, piercing companion. Your sense of smell, too, is on high alert. You try to dissect the aromas in this heavy air. There's the dominant scent of damp earth, rich and loamy, like a freshly dug grave. Underneath that is the sharper, mineral smell of the wet stone walls, and lingering beneath it all is that faint, unpleasant musk of decay. Not of rot, not yet, but of stagnation. It's the smell of old bones, of forgotten things, of air that hasn't moved in a century. You take a deeper breath, trying to gauge the quality of the air. Is it running out? The space feels small, but you can't tell how small. The air doesn't feel thin, just stale. This brings up a morbidly practical question that historians who study these spaces consider ventilation. A completely sealed oublight would be a death sentence from asphyxiation within a day or two. But most were not perfectly airtight. The imperfect seal of the trapdoor far above these would allow for a slow, almost imperceptible exchange of air, just enough to keep a prisoner alive for the real torments to begin. This isn't a comfort, it's a curse. You have enough air to survive for now. Then there is touch. The cold is a constant. The dampness from the floor is already seeping through your thin trousers, chilling you to the bone. The pain in your ankle is a blazing beacon, the one sensation that cuts through the dullness of the others. You tentatively reach down in the dark and your fingers explore the injury. Your ankle is swollen to the size of a small melon, hot and tender to the slightest pressure. You wince, pulling your hand back. Definitely not a simple sprain. The bone might be fractured. The thought is terrifying: a serious injury in a place with no hope of aid. You are acutely aware of the texture of your own clothes, the rough wool of your tunic against your skin, the way your leather belt digs into your waist. These are the last remnants of your former life, the final flimsy barrier between you and this cold, dark earth. You try to call out. The idea is foolish, you know it is, but the need to break the silence is overwhelming. Hello? The sound of your own voice is shocking. It doesn't travel. The small, damp space swallows it almost instantly. There's a flat, dead quality to it, with almost no echo. It's like shouting into a thick blanket. The sound dies a foot from your lips. The lack of reverberation tells you something about the size of your prison. It's small, and the soft earth floor and damp stone walls are excellent sound absorbers. You try again, louder this time, a desperate shout for help. Is anyone there? The sound is swallowed just as quickly. The silence that rushes back and feels even heavier, more absolute than before. It's a silence that mockingly confirms your solitude. You have been dropped into a sensory deprivation chamber, a place designed to dismantle a person sense by sense. Your eyes have already been rendered useless. Your eyes as a tool with no function. You are left with the cold, the pain, and the ringing in your ears. This is the first true breath of your new existence, an existence defined not by what is there, but by everything that has been taken away. The panic has receded, replaced by a cold, practical dread. You can't just sit here and wait for the end. You need to know the dimensions of your cage. You need a mental map, a blueprint of your world, however small it may be. To be ignorant of your own prison is a kind of madness in itself. Keeping your injured ankle as still as possible, you lie on your side and reach out one hand, pressing your palm flat against the damp earth. Then, with your back still braced against the wall, you begin to crawl. It's a slow, agonizing process. You move like a wounded animal, dragging your useless leg behind you. Every tiny movement sends a jolt of pain up your shin, but the need to understand your surroundings is stronger. Your right hand stays in constant contact with the wall. It's your only guide, your compass in the unending night. The stone is rough, jagged in places with a slimy film of what you assume is algae or moss. It's strangely comforting, this imperfect texture. It's real. It's a boundary. Your fingers trace the lines of mortar between the stones, feeling for any weakness, any crack, any change in texture. But the construction feels solid, ancient, and unforgiving. The medieval masons who built this place built it to last. They built it to contain. The floor is a landscape of its own. Your crawling hand discovers a geography of small mounds and shallow depressions. You feel more of those small, hard objects. Bones, likely from rats and other vermin that have shared this fate. Then your fingers close around something larger. It's smooth, curved, and unmistakably a piece of a skull. Human. You recoil, snatching your hand back as if burned. A wave of nausea washes over you. You are crawling through the dust of your predecessors. This isn't just a prison, it's a communal grave, layered with generations of despair. The existence of other remains is a grimly debated topic among historians. While the most lurid tales describe Oubliette as piled high with skeletons, the archaeological evidence is often more ambiguous. A few bones could be from previous prisoners, or they could be animal remains that fell in or were thrown in with refuse. But down here, in the dark, you don't have the luxury of academic skepticism. To you, that piece of skull is a story, a warning, and a prophecy. You force yourself to continue. The crawl feels endless. After what seems like an hour of painstaking, painful movement, your hand, still tracing the wall, meets the spot where your back was. You've come full circle. You stop, catching your breath, trying to form a picture in your mind. The shape is roughly circular, or perhaps an uneven oval. You try to estimate the diameter, maybe 4 or 5 paces across. It's small, shockingly small. Not a room, but a pit. A well for burying people who are still alive. There are no corners to hide in, no features to distinguish one side from the other. Just a continuous, curving wall of weeping stone. Now for the other dimension height. You sit up, your back once again against the wall, and reach as high as you can. Your fingertips brush against empty, cold air. You can reach the ceiling. That's both good and bad. It means you have air to breathe, but it also means the trapdoor, your only connection to the outside world, is utterly, impossibly out of reach. There will be no jumping or climbing out of here. You've done it. You have measured your world. It is a stone-lined pit, perhaps 10 feet wide, with a dirt floor littered with the bones of the dead. Above you, somewhere in the darkness, is a ceiling you cannot touch. This is the entirety of your physical existence now. The knowledge is a cold comfort. You have replaced the terror of the unknown with the despair of the known. You slump against the wall, exhausted by the effort and the pain. The mental map is complete. It is small, ugly, and hopeless. You run your fingers over the dumb stone wall again. Your nail catches in a groove. You trace it. It feels deliberate. A straight line, etched into the stone. You feel along it, and find another, and another, and another. Scratches, tally marks. Someone before you tried to keep track of the days. The thought is like a punch to the gut. Someone sat in this exact spot, in this same darkness, and scratched a line into the wall with a stone or a piece of bone, trying to hold on to the passage of time. You run your fingers over the marks, counting them. There are dozens, maybe hundreds, a chaotic jumble of desperation, and then they just stop. You feel a sudden, profound connection to this nameless, faceless person. You are not the first to try and make sense of this place, and you are probably not the first to fail. Time passes, or at least you assume it does. In the absolute dark, your internal clock is a mess. You drift in and out of a shallow, pain-filled sleep, but there's no sunrise to mark a new day, no moon to signal the night. Waking and sleeping are just different flavors of blackness. The only rhythm is the throbbing in your ankle and the gnawing emptiness in your stomach. Then you hear it. It's faint, at first so faint you think you're reimagining it, another phantom of a sensory-starved brain. But you hold your breath, straining your ears, and there it is again. A sound, coming from above. It's the sound of footsteps. Not the clear, sharp click-clack of boots on stone that you hear in a corridor. This is a muffled, heavy thudding, filtered through what must be feet of earth and a thick wooden trapdoor. It's the sound of someone walking in the room directly above your prison. Your heart leaps into your throat. It's the first sign of life from the outside world since the door slammed shut. Someone is up there. They're so close, just a few yards away, living and breathing in the world of light. You scramble into a sitting position, ignoring the fire in your ankle, and scream, "H-E-L-P, I-M-D-O-W-N-H-E-R-E, H-E-L-P-M-E. Your voice as before is swallowed by the dead acoustics of your pit. It's a desperate, pathetic sound, barely reaching your own ears. You know with a sickening certainty that they can't hear you. The sound from above is a one-way transmission. You can hear them, but they will never hear you. The footsteps continue their heavy, rhythmic tread, back and forth. A guard on patrol? Someone fetching something from a storeroom? You hang on to every single muffled footfall as if it were a word spoken directly to you. It's proof. Proof that the world still exists. Proof that you are not in some alternate dimension or are two human beings. You are directly beneath the feet of other human beings. This proximity is a special kind of torture, a core element of the Oubliett's psychological cruelty. You are not isolated on a remote island, you are separated by a mere handful of feet, a single barrier of wood and stone. You are close enough to hear life, but infinitely far from participating in it. It's like a starving man being forced to watch a feast through a thick, soundproof window. The footsteps stop, directly overhead. You freeze, listening. Is that a voice? Yes. Faint, indistinct murmurs, a conversation. The sounds are garbled, the words incomprehensible, like listening to people talk underwater. You can't make out what they're saying, but you can hear the cadence, the rise and fall of human speech. You press your ear against the cold, damp wall, tilting your head up, trying to catch a single, clear word. It's useless. The stone and earth are too thick, but you can hear the tone. It's casual, unconcerned, They are just two people having a normal conversation, completely unaware of the desperate, terrified soul trapped in the darkness just beneath their boot. They are talking about the weather, or the quality of the ale, or a pretty girl in the village. Their lives are continuing, utterly oblivious to the fact that yours has ended. You are a secret they don't even know they are keeping. This is the very definition of being forgotten. Not that people remember you and choose to ignore you, but that their world carries on so completely that the space you once occupied has already been filled, smoothed over, and rendered non-existent. For a moment, hatred, pure and hot, burns through your fear. You hate them. You hate their footsteps, their voices, their casual existence. You hate their freedom, their light there. How dare they walk around up there, living their lives, while you rot in this hole? The injustice of it is a physical thing, a bitter taste in your mouth. Then, as quickly as it came, the anger drains away, leaving only a profound, hollow loneliness. The footsteps start up again, moving away. The muffled thuds grow fainter and fainter, until they are gone. The indistinct murmuring ceases, and the silence rushes back in. It's heavier this time somehow, more profound. Before, it was just the absence of sound. Now it is the presence of absence. You have been reminded of what you've lost. The world has just forgotten you. It is actively, ceaselessly, going on without you. And that knowledge is a heavier stone to bear than any that makes up the walls of your prison. Use it in the dark, the echo of those phantom footsteps, the only proof that you are still connected, however tenuously, to the land of the living. The sounds from above become your new calendar, your only clock. Your own to distinguish between the heavy, solitary tread of a single guard on patrol and the scuffling, multiple footfalls that suggests several people are in the room. Sometimes you hear the scraping sound of a stool being dragged across the floor, or a dull thud, as if a sack or barrel has been dropped. Each sound is a tiny, precious event in your timeless, eventless existence. But these sounds are unpredictable. Sometimes you'll hear them several times in what you guess is a single period of waking. Other times, you'll go through several cycles of sleeping and waking in utter silence. This inconsistency destroys any attempt to build a reliable sense of time. Is it day or night up there? You have no idea. Without the sun, your body's natural rhythms are adrift. You sleep when exhaustion overtakes you and wake when pain or hunger becomes too sharp to ignore. But your days have no structure. They are just shapeless blocks of darkness, punctuated by fear and phantom noises. This is a well-documented phenomenon known as free-running rhythm, where the human circadian clock, deprived of external cues like light, begins to drift. Your internal 24-hour cycle might stretch to 25, 26, or even more hours. You are literally living on your own personal timeline, completely desynchronized from the world above. You decide you must try to reclaim some measure of control. You remember the scratches on the wall, the tally marks, your predecessor's failed attempt to chart the void. You decide to take up his task. You need a tool. You feel around in the dirt, your fingers searching for a suitable rock. The floor is mostly soft earth, but you eventually find a piece of stone, small and sharp-edged, probably a chip from the original excavation of the pit. It fits awkwardly in your hand, but it will have to do. You drag yourself back to the spot on the wall where you first felt the old marks. You run your fingers over them again, a silent communion with your ghost predecessor. Then, you find a clear patch of stone nearby. The first mark is the hardest. You press the sharp edge of the stone against the damp, slimy wall and scrape. The sound is grating, loud in silence. The stone is slick, and it takes a surprising amount of effort to break through the film of algae, bite into the rock itself. After a minute of determined effort, you run your finger over the spot. A faint, shallow line. It's barely there, but it's yours. 1. You have marked one passage of something. You decide that each time you wake up, you will make a mark. It's not a day, you know that, but it's a unit of consciousness. It's a way of saying, I was awake, I was here. This simple act becomes the central ritual of your life. Wake up, feel the throb in your ankle, feel the gnawing hunger, and then drag yourself to the wall and make your mark. It's a struggle every time. Your body is growing weaker. The pain is a constant companion. but the ritual gives you a sliver of purpose. It's a fight against the formless, timeless nature of your prison. After you've made a few marks, you start to worry. What if you fall asleep for a long time and miss a cycle? What if you wake up, but are too weak or disoriented to make the mark? What if you lose your scratching stone in the dark? The system is fragile, based on nothing more than your own flawed perception and memory. And what does it even mean? You're keeping a record that no one will ever see. You're measuring time in a place where time has no meaning. Is it an act of sanity, or the first real symptom of madness? Historians and philosophers have long debated the nature of time itself. Is it an objective reality, or a human construct? Down here, that debate is terrifyingly real. Time for you is no longer a river flowing from past to future. It's a stagnant pond, and you are just dropping stones into it, counting the ripples. You make your fifth mark. Or is it the sixth? You have to count them by touch every time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, 5. 5 cycles of waking and sleeping have passed. Or maybe you just think they have. Maybe you fell asleep after making the 4th mark and dreamed that you woke up. Maybe you are dreaming right now. The darkness is a fertile ground for doubt. It erodes your confidence in your own mind. The tally marks, meant to be an anchor of certainty, become a source of anxiety. You find yourself constantly crawling back to the wall to recount them to reassure yourself. The scratches are a testament not to the passage of time, but to your desperate, failing attempt to master it. You are a king ruling over an empire of one. Your only subject the relentless, silent darkness. Shallow lines scraped on a weeping stone wall. In the unending darkness with no new information to process, your mind turns inward. It begins to ransack the archives of your memory, projecting images and sensations onto the black screen of your confinement. At first, it's a comfort. You summon the face of your mother, her warm smile and the smell of baking bread, that all weight of her hand on your shoulder. You walk through your childhood home, room by room, in your mind. You see the worn wooden table in the kitchen, the sunlight streaming through the single, small window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. You remember the lumpy mattress of your bed, the scratchy wool blanket. These memories are so vivid, so detailed, that for a fleeting moment, you are there. You are not in the cold, damp pit. You are home. You replay happy memories, small and insignificant moments that you never realized you had stored away. The taste of a wild strawberry you found in the woods one summer. The feeling of cool river water on a hot day. The sound of your father's off-key singing as he worked the leather. These memories become your most precious possessions, a private treasure hoard that no one can take from you. You cling to them, replaying them over and over, polishing them like worn stones until they gleam in the darkness of your mind. But the mind is not a curated library. It is a chaotic, overgrown garden, and soon darker things begin to surface. The tide of memory turns, and it brings with it regrets, embarrassments, and fears. You remember the time you stole a small coin from your father's purse to buy a sweet cake at the market. You were never caught, but the memory of the guilt, sharp and sour, is as fresh as if it were yesterday. You feel the heat of shame on your cheeks, a ghostly echo of a childhood transgression. You remember every cruel word you ever said. Age I but a friend that made him cry. A sharp, angry retort to your mother that you immediately regretted. These moments, long buried, come back with excruciating clarity. You have nothing to do but lie here and let them torment you. There is no one to apologize to, no way to atone. Your past sins are your new cellmates. The face of Sir Renaud, your accuser, swims up from the depths. You see his face, twisted in that fake outrage, his finger pointing at you. You replay the trial 100 times, thinking of all the things you should have said, the clever arguments you could have made. But it's a useless exercise, a form of self-torture. You were doomed from the start. This phenomenon, the vivid and often uncontrollable flood of autobiographical memory, is something often reported by people in solitary confinement or sensory deprivation. When the brain is starved of external stimuli, its internal activity, including memory retrieval, becomes much more prominent. It's as if the mind, in its boredom, decides to watch old movies of your life. And it doesn't always pick the ones with happy endings. The worst memories are the ones of missed opportunities. The girl in the village you were too shy to speak to. The time your father offered to teach you a complex tooling technique for the leather, and you said you were too busy. The chances you didn't take. The doors you didn't take. The doors you didn't open. In the light of the living world, these were small things. In the darkness of the Oubliette, they become vast landscapes of regret. What would your life have been like if you had just been a little braver, a little wiser? The memories begin to blur. The good and the bad churn together in a chaotic soup. You find yourself drifting between the sun-drenched memory of a picnic and the cold, damp reality of your prison, the transition so seamless that you're not sure which is real. You are becoming a ghost in your own past. You try to force your mind back to the happy memories, to the smell of bread and the warmth of the sun. But it's getting harder. The darkness seems to poison them, to leach the color and warmth out of them. The memory of your mother's smile now seems fragile, distant. The sunlight in the kitchen seems watery and thin. The past is no longer a sanctuary. It's just another part of your prison, a gallery of everything you have lost forever. The tide has gone out, leaving you stranded on the shore, with nothing but the cold, hard reality of the weeping stone and the throbbing in your ankle. The dull ache of an empty stomach has been your companion since the beginning, but now it transforms into something else entirely. It's no longer a simple emptiness, it's an active, predatory force. Hunger has become a creature living inside you, clawing at your insides, demanding to be fed. Your body, a remarkably efficient machine, is beginning to consume itself. First, it burned through the sugars from your last meal. Now, it's devouring your fat reserves and muscle tissue. You can feel it. A profound, deep-seated weakness is settling into your limbs. The simple act of crawling to the wall to make your tally mark is becoming a monumental effort, leaving you dizzy and breathless. Hunger changes the way you think. It monopolizes your mind. Your vivid memories of people and places begin to fade, replaced by an obsessive, all-consuming focus on food. You can't summon your mother's face anymore, but you can picture, with perfect, hallucinatory clarity, a loaf of bread. You can see the crisp, golden brown crust, the soft, airy crumb inside. You can smell it, taste it, feel its texture in your mouth. You spend hours, whole waking cycles, just thinking about that loaf of bread. Then you move on to a roasted chicken. You can hear the skin crackling, see the juice running from the meat. You remember every meal you ever took for granted. The simple bowl of pottage at the end of the day, the apple you ate without even thinking about it. Each one is now a banquet, a feast of impossible luxury. This obsessive focus on food is a well-known psychological effect of starvation. The famous Minnesota starvation experiment during World War II, where volunteers were put on a semi-starvation diet, documented this in detail. The subjects became obsessed with food, collecting recipes, dreaming of food, and losing interest in almost everything else. Your mind, in a desperate bid for survival, has narrowed its entire focus to the one thing it needs most. There's a grim debate among historians about the feeding of prisoners in places like this. Was it common to simply let them starve, a passive form of execution, or were they given just enough to prolong the agony? The name Oubliette suggests the former, a place to be forgotten entirely, food included. Your senses, already skewed, are now being twisted by hunger. The musty smell of the damp earth sometimes morphs into the scent of roasting meat. The gurgling of your own stomachs like water boiling in a pot. You are living in a world of phantom feasts. The hunger is your new clock. The pangs in your stomach are more regular, more reliable than the footsteps from above or your own flawed sleep cycle. You start to measure time in waves of nausea uncramping. The world is divided into two states: the dull ache of constant hunger, and the sharp, agonizing spasms of acute starvation. You begin to explore your cell with a new, desperate purpose. You run your hands through the dirt floor, not searching for a stone to mark the wall, but for something, anything that could be eaten. A root, an earthworm, a beetle. You find a slick, wriggling worm and, without a second thought, you put it in your mouth. It's gritty with dirt and tastes of nothing but cold, damp earth. You chew and swallow, your stomach churning in protest. It's a disgusting, desperate act, but it's something, pathetic rebellion against the emptiness. You run your tongue over the weeping walls, licking the film of moisture and algae. It's cold and slimy with a faint mineral taste. It does nothing for your hunger, but the moisture is a relief to your parched throat. You hadn't even realized how thirsty you were until that moment. The hunger had eclipsed all other needs. You are being stripped down to your most basic, animal self. All the complex layers of your personality, your hopes, your regrets, your sense of humor are being burned away to fuel the furnace of your metabolism. You are becoming a creature of pure, simple need. Your world has shrunk from the size of a town to the size of a pit, and now 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 to the size of your own aching, empty stomach. The hunger is not just a feeling anymore. The discovery of the moisture on the walls becomes a pivotal moment, a shift in your desperate calculus of survival. Before, your focus was singular, the all-consuming hunger. But the simple act of licking the cold, slimy stone has awakened another, equally primal need, thirst. Your mouth is dry, your tongue feels thick and clumsy. Swallowing is becoming difficult. You realize with a fresh jolt of fear that while a person can survive for weeks without food, survival without water is measured in days. Was this part of the design? To let thirst finish the job before starvation? You become a water prospector in your tiny, dark world. You crawl the circumference of your cell again, but this time your mission is different. You are not mapping boundaries, you are searching for the source. You run your tongue and fingers over every inch of the stone wall you can reach. Most of it is just damp, coated in that thin, cold film. It provides a momentary sick of moisture, but it's not enough to quench a real thirst. Then you find it. In one section of the wall, low to the ground, the dampness is different. It's not a film, it's a slow, steady seep. Water, clear and cold, is weeping from a fissure in the stone. A tiny, almost imperceptible crack. It doesn't flow, it just constantly, magically renews a small puddle of moisture on the stone's surface. You press your mouth to the crack, licking away the precious droplets. The water is achingly cold and has a strong metallic taste, as if it has filtered through miles of rock and iron ore. It tastes of the deep earth, but it is water, it is life. This discovery is a miracle, a tiny, flawed, desperate miracle. You have found a spring. You huddle against that section of the wall, jealously guarding it, pressing your mouth to the stone whenever the thirst becomes unbearable. It's not enough to drink your fill, but it's enough to keep the worst of the dehydration at bay. It's enough to keep you alive. The existence of such a water source in a dungeon is not as unlikely as it sounds. Many castles were built near natural springs for their water supply, and dungeons, being the lowest part of the structure, often intersected with the local water table. Seepage was a constant problem for castle builders. For the guards, it was a nuisance, a source of damp and rot. For you, it is salvation. This brings up another, one of those grim historical questions: was this intentional? Was a prisoner's access to a slow drip of water a calculated act of mercy, or a way to prolong their suffering? Or was it, most likely, just a complete accident, a byproduct of geology and architecture that the jailers never even considered? Now your life has two focal points: the tally marks on one side of the pit, and the water source on the other. Your waking cycles are now a painful, slow pilgrimage between the two. You wake, drag your aching body to the wall of time to scratch your mark, and then continue your crawl to the wall of life to drink. It's a pathetic parody of a daily routine, but it's a routine nonetheless. It's a structure, a fragile scaffold of purpose built over the abyss of your despair. The water, as vital as it is, brings its own problems. The constant dampness makes the cold even more penetrating. You are always shivering now, a low-grade tremor that you can't control, and the metallic tasting water does strange things to your already complaining stomach, but you keep drinking. You have no choice. One time, as you are huddled by your precious spring, you feel something brush against your hand. You flinch, thinking it's a rat, but it's just a piece of loose mortar that has crumbled from the wall. You pick it up. It's soft and gritty. You put it in your mouth. It dissolves into a chalky paste. You swallow it. Your body is so desperate for minerals, for anything, that you are literally eating your own prison. You have water. You have a way to mark time. You are surviving. But what kind of survival is this? You are no longer even truly waiting for death. You are just persisting. A damp, cold, hungry organism, huddled in the dark, licking water from a rock. You have won a small, terrible victory against the Oubliette. You have found a way to prolong your own torment. The silence, once a terrifying void, is now a crushing weight. The only sounds are the ones you make: the scrape of your scratching stone, the slurp of water from the wall, the ragged sound of your own breathing. Your brain, desperate for auditory stimulation, craves noise. More specifically, it craves language. So you begin to talk to yourself. At first, it's just whispers. You narrate your own actions, a constant, low murmur in the dark. Now I am crawling to the wall. The floor is cold. My ankle hurts. Now I am making a mark. This is mark number 23, 24. The act of speaking, of forming words and hearing them, however muffled in this dead space, is a confirmation that you are still a thinking being. You are not just a creature of instinct. You can still form a sentence. Soon, the whispers evolve into conversations. You talk to your father. You tell him you're sorry you lost the leather, that it wasn't your fault. You ask him for advice. You imagine his voice, deep and calm, telling you to be strong. The conversations are detailed, with pauses for his imagined replies. You are both the actor and the audience in this one-man play. You talk to the girl from the village you never had the courage to approach. In the darkness of the pit, you are suddenly charming, witty, and brave. You tell her jokes. You recite poetry you didn't even know you remembered. She, in your mind, laughs and is captivated. You have a whole, flourishing romance in the absolute privacy of your own skull. This isn't just a coping mechanism, it's a vital psychological tool. Studies of people in extreme isolation, from polar explorers to prisoners in solitary confinement, frequently report this phenomenon. Engaging in self-talk helps to organize thoughts, regulate emotions, and most importantly, maintain a sense of identity. By creating conversational partners, you are fighting against the dissolution of your own self. Sometimes you argue with Sir Renaud. You hold a proper trial this time, in the court of your mind. You are the prosecutor, the defense, the judge, and the jury. You lay out your case, calmly and rationally. You cross-examine him, pointing out the absurdities in his story. You always win. You condemn him to 1,000 different fates, each more satisfyingly ironic than the last. These imagined confrontations leave you feeling powerful for a few fleeting moments, before the cold and hunger bring you crashing back to reality. The most constant companion in your conversations, however, is the person who was here before you, the one who made the first set of tally marks. You call him the marker. You ask him questions. How long were you here, marker? Did you have a water source too? What did you think about? Did you also talk to yourself? You imagine him as an older, wiser man, a fellow traveler on this dark road. He gives you cryptic, stoic advice. He becomes your mentor in misery. The academic world has a term for this: the social brain. Our brains are so fundamentally wired for social interaction that when deprived of it, they will create it. They will project personalities onto inanimate objects, create imaginary friends, and rehearse social scenarios. It's a testament to the fact that we are not meant to be solitary creatures. Our sanity is, in many ways, a group project, but there's a danger to it. The line between a sane coping mechanism and a descent into delusion is perilously thin. Sometimes you forget that you are the one creating the other voices. You find yourself genuinely surprised by a reply from your father or the marker. You start to listen for their voices in the silence, half expecting them to speak on their own. Are you preserving your mind or are you losing it? You are no longer sure. All you know is that the sound of a voice, even your own, is better than the crushing, absolute silence. So you keep talking. You fill the small, dark space with the ghosts of everyone you've ever known. You populate your tomb, turning your solitary confinement into a crowded, noisy, imaginary world. It is the only world you have left. You are not alone. You've suspected it for a while. A skittering sound at the edge of your hearing, a fleeting sense of movement in the periphery of your non-existent vision. But you dismissed it as another trick of a starved and isolated mind. Now you know for sure. It happens while you are at your water source, pressing your mouth against the weeping stone. You feel a tickle on your bare foot. You jerk back with a strangled yelp, your heart hammering against your ribs. It's not an imagined sensation. It was real. Something touched you. You sit frozen, every muscle tensed, straining to hear. There it is again. A soft, scratching, scrabbling sound. It's coming from the other side of the pit. It's the sound of tiny claws on stone and in loose dirt. Rats, of course. It makes perfect, horrifying sense. Where there are humans and their refuse, there are rats. And this pit, with its history of discarded food scraps or so you hope and decomposing remains, must be a paradise for them. They are your neighbors, your cellmates, the other inhabitants of this vertical world. A wave of revulsion washes over you. Rats are creatures of filth and disease, the stuff of nightmares for city dwellers and peasants alike. They are bad omens, carriers of plague. The thought of them crawling over you in your sleep is a new, exquisitely tailored form of torture. You hurl the stone you use for your tally marks in the direction of the sound. It thuds satisfully into the dirt wall. The scratching stops. A moment of silence. You feel a grim sense of victory. Then the scratching starts again, this time from a slightly different location. They are not scared of you. Why would they be? You are a large, slow-moving, and progressively weaker source of warmth. In their world, you are not a threat. You are just part of the landscape. This unwelcome company is a common feature in historical accounts of dungeons. Prisoners often wrote about their constant battle with vermin, rats, lice, fleas. It was a miserable, unavoidable part of the experience. What's debated is the prisoner's relationship with them. Were they always a source of terror, or did something else happen over time? Your initial fear and disgust slowly, day by day, begin to curdle into something else. Resentment at first. You hate them for their freedom of movement, for their apparent ability to thrive in this place that is killing you. They are not trapped here. There must be tunnels, cracks in the foundation, a whole secret rat-sized infrastructure that connects this pit to the world above. They come and go as they please. You are the prisoner they are just visiting. But as the gnawing hunger continues to dominate your existence, another thought, dark and practical, begins to creep into your mind. Rats are made of meat. The idea is repulsive. You try to push it away, but it keeps coming back, fueled by the relentless cramping in your stomach. The phantom feast your mind used to conjure are gone, replaced by a grim, new culinary focus. You start listening to the scratching sounds not with fear, but with a hunter's concentration. You learn their patterns. They are most active when you are still, when they think you are asleep. One cycle. You lie perfectly motionless for what feels like hours, your breathing shallow. You let one get close. You can feel its tentative, whiskered approach. You can smell its musky scent. It's a gamble. Your body is weak, your movements slow. When you feel its weight on your leg, you move. A desperate, clumsy slap of your hand in the darkness. You feel a small, furry body of frantic squirming, and then a tiny snap. Silence. You've done it. Your hand is trembling, not from weakness, but from adrenaline and revulsion. You feel for the small, warm body in the dirt. It is limp. You have killed your neighbor. For a long moment you just hold it, this small, insignificant life that you have just extinguished. Then the hunger takes over. There is no fire, no knife. You do what you have to do with your teeth and your fingernails. The act is savage, animalistic. It is the single most disgusting thing you have ever done. But as you swallow the first small, stringy piece of raw meat, it feels like a resurrection. It's protein. It's energy. It's a fire being lit in the cold furnace of your stomach. You have a new source of food. You are no longer just a passive victim waiting to starve. You are a hunter. You have been reduced to the most primal level of existence, a predator in the dark. You have become a part of the pit's brutal ecosystem. You may have lost your humanity, but you have found a way to survive. Sometime after you become a hunter, something happens that completely shatters your new grim routine. It starts with a sound from above, but it's not the familiar muffled footsteps. It's a scraping, groaning noise, the sound of the trapdoor. You freeze, your heart seizing in your chest. For the first time since you were thrown in here, the seal of your tomb is being broken. 1,000 possibilities explode in your mind. Are they letting you out? Is it a new prisoner? Did they remember you? A rectangle of faint, dusky light appears in the ceiling of your world. It's not the bright, sharp light of a torch, but a dim grey illumination. Twilight, a heavily overcast day. After so long in absolute blackness, the feeble light is blinding. You shield your eyes with a hand, your pupils, dilated for weeks, contracting in agony. It's like having a hot needle shoved into your brain. You hear a muffled voice from above, the words indistinct. Then an object appears in the square of light, silhouetted against the grey sky. It falls. It's not a body. It's something small. It lands with a soft thud in the dirt near the center of the pit. The trapdoor groans shut again. The light vanishes. The heavy thump echoes, and you are back in the familiar, comforting dark. But everything has changed. You wait for your eyes to readjust, for the painful throbbing to subside. The silence has returned, but it's a different kind of silence now. It's filled with a question. What did they throw down? You crawl towards the spot where you saw it land. Your hands, now expert at navigating the darkness, sweep through the loose earth. Your fingers brush against it. Its coarse, firm, and roughly square. You bring it to your face, your sense of smell, honed by starvation, working frantically. It's bread. It's a small, hard chunk of dark bread, stale and smelling faintly of mold. But it is unmistakably bread, food, real food. You sit there in the dark, just holding it. It feels heavier than it should, weighted with meaning. This isn't a rat you hunted in desperation. This is a gift. A provision. An acknowledgement from the world above that you are down here, and you are alive. This act completely upends your understanding of your situation. The Oubliette, the forgotten place, was supposed to be a one-way trip to starvation, but someone has remembered you. Someone has fed you. Why? Is this an act of mercy? Perhaps a guard, taking pity on you, has secretly tossed you a scrap from his own meal. Or maybe it's part of the sentence, a calculated measure to prolong your life and thus your suffering. This is a topic of much historical debate, the logistics of long-term imprisonment. While the romantic image of the forgotten prisoner is powerful, the reality was often more complicated. Keeping a prisoner alive requires effort, food, water, security. A crust of bread could be a sign of pity, or it could be a simple bureaucratic line item in the castle's budget sustenance for the pit. You tear a small piece from the chunk of bread with your teeth. It's hard as a rock. You have to gnaw on it, letting the moisture in your mouth slowly soften it. The taste is incredible. It's sour, gritty, and slightly moldy, but it's the most delicious thing you have ever eaten. The complex carbohydrates, the faint taste of salt, it's a symphony of flavor to your deprived palate. It feels like pure life was flowing into you. You want to devour the entire thing in seconds, but a part of your mind, the part that has learned the cruel lessons of this pit, screams for caution. This might be the only piece of bread you ever get. You have to make it last. You eat one small corner, forcing yourself to chew it slowly, to savor every single molecule. You then carefully bury the rest of it in a specific spot near the wall, a secret larder. It's a treasure to be guarded, even from yourself. This single act of charity is a profound psychological torment. It introduces the one thing that had been completely extinguished in you: hope. Before the bread, you had achieved a kind of grim equilibrium. You were a creature of the pit, hunting, drinking, and marking time, surviving on your own brutal terms. You had, in a way, accepted your fate. Now, that acceptance is shattered. The bread is a tether to the world above, a promise that you are not entirely forgotten. And with that promise comes the agonizing return of what if. What if they feed me again? What if they remember my name? What if one day They open the trapdoor and lower a rope. Hope is a beautiful, terrible thing. It's a flicker of light in the darkness, but it also illuminates the true horror of your situation. It makes the silence more silent, the darkness more dark. It makes the waiting unbearable. You are no longer just surviving. You are now a prisoner of hope, waiting in the dark for a salvation that may never come. The bread and the hope it represents changes you. But it's a tainted hope, and it begins to do strange things to your mind. Your brain, already struggling with sensory deprivation, now has a new, powerful piece of data to process. You are being watched. Or at least remembered. This thought, combined with prolonged darkness and malnutrition, starts to unlock a new level of psychological distress. You begin to see things. It starts with the walls. As you sit in the dark staring at the featureless black, your mind begins to project patterns onto the stone. It's an extension of the fausse finesse, the faint light show from before, but now it's more structured. The random blobs of light start to coalesce into shapes. You see swirls, lines, and then, with startling clarity, faces. It's a phenomenon known as pareidolia, the tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. It's why people see faces in clouds or the man in the moon. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine, and it's so desperate for facial input that it starts creating faces out of the noise. The first face you see is terrifying. It's gaunt and skeletal with hollow eyes, formed from the natural bumps and shadows of a section of the stone wall. It seems to be staring right at you, a silent, judgmental observer. You scramble away from it, your heart pounding. But you can't escape it. You know exactly where it is, and every time you look in that direction, the face is there, waiting. You tell yourself it's not real. It's a trick of the mind, but the explanation does little to comfort you. The face feels real. It has a presence. Soon, there are more faces. They populate the walls of your prison, a silent, ghostly audience. There's an old woman with a disapproving frown, a young boy with a look of terror, a bearded man who seems to be whispering, though you hear no sound. You have conversations with them. They become an extension of the imaginary companions you created earlier, but these ones are different. You didn't consciously create them. They just appeared. The line between imagination and hallucination is dissolving. Are you controlling these visions, or are they controlling you? Sometimes the visions become more elaborate. You'll see a procession of robed figures marching silently around the circumference of the pit. You'll see a tree growing in the center of the floor, its branches reaching up towards the trapdoor, only to wither and die in seconds. These are hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations, vivid, dreamlike experiences that occur as you're falling asleep or waking up. In your world of blurred sleep-wake cycles, these states are becoming more frequent and prolonged. The historical record is full of accounts from mystics, ascetics, and prisoners who, through fasting and isolation, experienced profound visions. Some were interpreted as divine communication, others as demonic torment. There's a persistent, if not entirely provable, theory that some religious experiences were rooted in the neurocognitive sensory deprivation and starvation. Down here, you are an unwilling mystic, and your revelations are not of heaven or hell, but of the strange, crumbling architecture of your own mind. Your relationship with the rats also changes. You still hunt them, driven by the primal need for food. But now you see them differently. Sometimes when you hear their scratching, you see them not as rats but as small hooded figures, scurrying in the dark. You hear them whispering to each other, plotting. Are they your jailers, your spies? You are losing the ability to distinguish between what is a projection of your own fracturing consciousness. The stone walls, the dirt floor, the throbbing in your ankle, these things are real. The rats are real. The bread was real. The bread was real, but the faces, the whispering figures, they exist in a gray space, a borderland between the world and your mind. You have a new, terrifying fear. It's not the fear of starvation or thirst or even death. It's the fear of your own mind. The Oubliette was designed to destroy your body, but you are discovering it has a far more insidious purpose. It's a place that dismantles the self. It peels you away, layer by layer, until you can no longer be sure where you end and the darkness begins. The faces on the stone are your new companions, and this silent judgment is a constant reminder that you are no longer the sole inhabitant of your own head. How long has it been? You've lost count of the tally marks. The ritual of scratching them onto the wall has become sporadic, your weakness so profound that the effort is often too much. You run your fingers over the chaotic cluster of lines, but they've lost their meaning. Is this mark from yesterday? A week ago? The record is unreliable or forgotten language. Time is no longer a line, but a tangled knot. With the blurring of time comes the blurring of self. A new, terrifying thought begins to surface. You try to picture your own face, and you find that you can't. You scrunch up your eyes in the darkness, trying to summon a clear image of yourself in a mirror, or a reflection in a puddle. What color are your eyes? You think they are brown, but you're not sure anymore. Are they a light brown, or a dark, almost black brown? What shape is your nose? Your jaw? You have the memory of a scar on your chin from falling out of a tree as a child. You reach up and touch your chin. It's covered in a rough, matted beard, your skin grimy and unfamiliar. You can feel a faint ridge under the hair. Is that it? Or is it just a bump you never noticed before? The face you try to conjure in your mind is a vague, shifting composite, like a poorly remembered dream. It's the face of a stranger. This loss of your own mental image is a deeply unsettling consequence of long-term isolation. Our sense of self is constantly reinforced by social interaction, by being addressed by name. You have none of that. You are a consciousness floating in a void, untethered from a physical identity. The person you were, the one who was thrown down this hole, is fading. You try to anchor yourself with memories. You are the son of a tanner. Your name is you grasp for it, a moment of pure panic. It's on the tip of your tongue. You know it, but for a horrifying second it's gone. Then it comes rushing back, and you sob with relief, whispering it to yourself over again. A desperate mantra against the encroaching amnesia. You spend a whole waking cycle just trying to feel your own face, to rebuild the map of it with your fingertips. Your fingers, caked with dirt and grime, trace the contours of your skull. You feel the sharp ridge of your brow, the sunken hollows of your cheeks where fattened muscle have been eaten away. You feel the unfamiliar texture of your long greasy hair and the weary tangle of your beard. The face your fingers are exploring is a stranger's. It's a mask of starvation and filth. It is the face of the pit. It's a strange historical irony that in an age before mirrors were common for ordinary people, one's own image was a far more fluid concept. A person's reflection might only be glimpsed in a bucket of water or a polished piece of metal, but even then the faces of others' family, friends, neighbors would constantly reinforce one's place in the world. You don't even have that. The only faces in your world are the ones you hallucinate on the stone walls. The loss of your face feels like a deeper kind of forgetting. The world has forgotten you, and now you are beginning to forget yourself. What are you, if not your face? What are you, if not your name? You are being reduced to a set of basic functions: hunger, thirst, pain, fear. You try to cling to your identity by talking to yourself, by repeating your name and the names of your family members. But the words are starting to sound strange, like sounds without meaning. The voice you use doesn't even sound like your own anymore. It's a raspy, weak croak that you barely recognize. You have a recurring, waking nightmare. You imagine the trapdoor opening under guard yelling down a name. But it's not your name. It's a name you've never heard before. And in the dream you are and accepted a new identity, one given to you by your captors. You are becoming a creature of the Oubliette, not just in body, but in mind. You were thrown in here as a person, a specific individual with a history and a face. But the pit is grinding you down, eroding your features, erasing your name. It's turning you into an anonymous being, a nameless entity whose only defining characteristic is that it is trapped in the dark. It is the ultimate success of the place of forgetting. Your world, for so long defined by its suffocating silence, is suddenly filled with noise. But it's not the familiar, muffled footsteps from the room above. This is a new sound, vast and terrifying. It's a low, distant rumbling, a vibration that you feel less with your ears and more with your bones. It seems to come from everywhere at once, a deep tremor in the earth itself. It's the sound of the world shaking. Then comes a great, shattering crunch. It's a sound so loud it feels like the stone walls of your pit are cracking around you. Dust and small pebbles rain down from the ceiling, pattering on the dirt floor and on your own head. You curl into a ball, wrapping your arms over your head, convinced that the castle is collapsing on top of you. This is the sound of war. You don't know who is fighting whom or why. But you know the sound of a trebuchet. You've heard them in stories, the great siege engines that can hurl massive stones over long distances to batter down castle walls. That shattering crunch was the sound of a projectile hitting the fortress, hitting your fortress. Suddenly your tiny, forgotten pit is at the epicenter of a massive, violent event. The silence is replaced by a cacophony. You can hear the distant shouts of men, the clang of steel on steel, the splintering of wood. The sounds are filtered by the tons of earth and stone around you, but they are unmistakable. A battle is raging outside. This new reality is both terrifying and exhilarating. The terror is obvious. You are trapped in a box that is being systematically smashed from the outside. A well-aimed stone could bring the whole structure down, burying you alive in an instant. Every impact makes your world tremble, and you brace for the end. But the exhilaration is there too. Something is happening. The stagnant, timeless pond of your existence has been shattered. The world above is in chaos, and in chaos, there is a chance for change. Your fate, which seemed so irrevocably sealed, has been thrown into question. The concept of the dungeon prisoner during a siege is a fascinating and horrifying one. Were they remembered in the chaos? Were they remembered in the chaos? Were they released to help fight? Or were they, as is more likely, completely forgotten as the defenders focused on the immediate threat? There are even darker possibilities that historians speculate on. Were they killed preemptively, to prevent them from escaping or to save on precious resources? Your fate hangs precariously in the balance, a footnote in a larger conflict. The battle seems to go on for days. The cycle of noise and vibration is relentless. You can't sleep, you just huddle against the wall, listening to the destruction of the world above. You try to piece together the story of the battle from the sounds. A loud crash followed by roaring sounds might be a breach in the wall. A sudden lull might mean a temporary truce or a failed assault. You are a blind war correspondent, reporting from the very foundations of the battlefield. During a pause in the bombardment, you hear something new from the room above, not the usual footsteps. This is a frantic scrambling, shouting. The voices are different. They are strained, panicked. The trapdoor is wrenched open, and for a second, the pit is illuminated not by daylight, but by the flickering, orange glow of fire. You see silhouettes, men dragging sacks and barrels. They are using the room above as a hasty storeroom, or perhaps a place to hide valuables. They are shouting at each other, their words sharp with fear and urgency. They don't even glance down the hole. You are less than a secret. You are an irrelevance. The trapdoor is left open as they work, and for the first time, you can smell the battle. The air that drifts down is thick with the acrid smell of smoke and something else, a coppery, metallic scent that turns your stomach. Then, just as quickly as they came, they are gone. They slam the trapdoor shut, plunging you back into darkness, but leaving you with the smell of a burning world and the knowledge that the castle is on fire. The ground shakes with one final, titanic impact, greater than all the ones that came before. It's followed by a deep, grinding roar, the sound of tons of stone giving way. This time, the ceiling of your pit cracks. A web of fissures appears, and a shower of dirt and stone cascades down. You are sure this is the end. But the collapse stops. You are left in the ringing silence. A new, jagged crack in the ceiling, a testament to the violence. The battle seems to be over. The castle has fallen. And you are still here, trapped in the dark. But now you are trapped in a ruin. Your jailers are likely dead or fled. The world has been turned upside down. And you have a new, terrifying, and hopeful question. Does anyone in the world even know that this hole exists? The silence that follows the battle is different from the silence that came before. It's not the insulated, living quiet of a functioning castle. It's the dead, empty silence of a ruin. There are no more footsteps from above. No more muffled conversations. No more scrapes of as too low or the thud of a dropped sack. The life has been bled out of the place. You wait. That's all you can do. You crawl to your water source. You check your pathetic larder where a few crumbs of the magical bread might still be hidden. You touch your tally marks on the wall, a ritual that has lost all meaning but that you perform out of habit. You are an automaton going through the motions in a dead world. Time, which had been a tangled knot, now becomes a vast, featureless ocean. You float in it, untethered. Did the battle end yesterday? A week ago? A month ago? There is absolutely no way to know. The silence is eternal. Then, one cycle, you hear a noise. It's from above. A scraping sound at the trap door. Your entire being focuses on that sound. It's not the familiar groan of the old guards. It's different, slower, more hesitant. The trap door opens. Light spills in. Not the dim, grey light from before, but bright, harsh sunlight. It's so intense that it feels like a physical blow. You cry out and cover your eyes, every nerve screaming in protest. It takes a long, painful time for your vision to adjust, for the world to resolve itself from a white-hot glare into something recognizable. A head appears in the opening. A silhouette against the blinding sky. But the shape of the helmet is wrong. It's not the familiar style of your old lord's guards. It's a different design. A foreign shape. A voice calls down. It's a language you don't understand. The words are guttural clipped. The accent is entirely alien. It's the voice of a conqueror, an invader. This is the moment, the pivot point of your entire existence. Your heart is a frantic bird beating against your ribs. Do you answer? What do you say? You don't know their language. You don't know their intentions. Are they here to liberate prisoners, or to clean out the dungeons by finishing off anyone left inside? The historical reality for prisoners in a captured castle was grimly unpredictable. An invading army might see them as liabilities, as mouths to feed, or as potential loyalists to the old regime. But they might also be seen as sources of information, or as victims of the defeated lord, and thus potential allies. Your life depends entirely on the disposition of the man staring down at you. You decide to take the risk. Your own voice is a dry, rasping croak, rusty from disuse. You call out, not in words, but in a simple, universal sound of distress. A moan, a plea, a sound that communicates suffering without needing a language. There's a pause. The head at the opening turns and shouts something to someone out of your sight. There's a muffled conversation in that strange tongue. You listen, your entire future hanging on the tones of voices you cannot comprehend. Do they sound angry, curious, indifferent? Then the head reappears. He looks down at you for a long moment. You try to see his face, but he is just a dark shape against the overwhelming light. You are a creature of darkness, looking up at a visitor from the sun. He shouts something down at you again. The tone is sharp, a command. You don't understand the words, but the meaning is clear. Who are you? Or what are you doing down there? You try to answer. You call out your name. You say the name of your village. You say Tanner. You offer up the few broken shards of your old identity, hoping one of them will mean something to him. There's another longer pause. The man seems to be considering. Then, to your absolute heart-stopping astonishment, a rope snakes down through the opening. It uncoils through the air and lands in a heap on the dirt floor. Pyro, it's a lifeline. It's a lifeline. It's a ladder to the sky. It's a miracle. For a moment you just stare at it, unable to believe it's real. You touch it. The rough fibers are solid under your filthy fingers. Another command from above. Louder this time, impatient. They cheers telling you to hurry up. Can you even do it? Your body is a wreck. Your ankle is a useless, swollen mass. Your muscles have atrophied. You are a creature of the floor of crawling. Climbing seems like a physiological impossibility, but the hope, that terrible, beautiful hope that you had tried to crush, now roars back to life. It floods you with a strength you didn't know you had. You will climb. You will leave this pit, or you will die trying. You grab the rope with both hands. The fibers bite into your soft, uncalloused palms. You ignore the pain. You have a new jailer now, more powerful than any Lord the Sun, and it is calling you home. You wrap the coarse rope around your hands, the rough fibers digging into your skin, providing a solid, painful grip. This is it, the final test. You take a deep, shuddering breath of the stale, familiar air of your tomb, a silent farewell. The climb is agony. Your muscles, wasted away by starvation and disuse, scream in protest. Your arms, which have done little more than drag your body across the floor, tremble with a weakness that is terrifying. Each pull is a monumental effort, lifting a body that feels like a sack of lead. Your injured ankle bangs against the stone wall, sending blinding flashes of pain through your nervous system, but you barely notice. All of your will is concentrated in your hands and arms. You are a spider climbing a thread, a creature of the dark ascending towards the light. The stone wall scrapes against your back. You can smell the algae, the dampness you have lived with for so long. It's the smell of your own grave, and you are leaving it behind. Halfway up, your strength gives out. Your grip loosens, your arms feel like they are being torn from their sockets. For a horrifying second you slip, sliding back down a few feet, the rope burning your palms. Panic seizes you. You can't do it. You are too weak. You will fall, and land back in the darkness, your one chance lost forever. A shout from above. It's that same impatient forlorn voice. It's not encouraging, but it's a reminder. Someone is waiting. The world is waiting. You find a last, hidden reserve of strength, fueled by pure desperation. You lock your muscles, ignoring the burn, and begin to pull again. Hand over hand. Slower this time. Your head breaks through the opening, into the world of light and air. The sun is on your face. The feeling is so overwhelming, so alien, that you almost let go. It's not the gentle warmth you remember, it's a searing physical presence. The air is fresh and clean, filled with the scent of dust, sun-baked stove, and a faint, lingering smell of smoke. It's the most beautiful thing you have ever smelled. A pair of strong hands grabs you under the arms and hauls you the rest of the way out. You collapse onto the floor of the room, a trembling, gasping heap of filth and bones. You have escaped. You are out of the pit. You lie on the stone floor, blinking, your eyes streaming. The room is a wreck. The table is overturned, and there's rubble and debris everywhere from the siege. Standing over you are two soldiers. They are not the men you remember. Their faces are weathered, bearded. They wear leather jerkins over chainmail, their helmets tucked under their arms. They are the conquerors. They look at you with a mixture of pity and disgust. To them, you are not a person. You are a thing. A piece of salvage from the ruin. You are impossibly thin. Your skin stretched taut over your bones, covered in a layer of grime and sores. Your hair and beard are a matted, tangled mess. Your clothes are rags, barely holding together. You are a grotesque caricature of a human being. One of the soldiers says something to the other, and laughs. A short, harsh bark. H.E.S. probably joking about your appearance or the smell. The laughter doesn't hurt you. Nothing can hurt you right now. You are out. You push yourself up, trying to stand. Your legs tremble violently and then buckle. You fall back to your knees. You have forgotten how to stand. You are a crawler. One of the soldiers, perhaps taking pity, offers you a water skin. You grab it with shaking hands and drink. The water is fresh, clean, tasting of leather and sunlight. It's a revelation. You drink so greedily that you choke, water spilling down your chin and onto your chest. You look around the room and then you look back at the hole in the floor. The Oubliette, the black square that was your entire universe for so long. It looks small, insignificant, almost pathetic in the bright light of day. Was that really it? Was that the monster that consumed you? A wave of dizziness and disorientation washes over you. You start to question everything. Did any of it really happen? The tally marks, the faces and the stone, the whispers of the marker. Were they real, or were they just the elaborate, detailed hallucinations of a dying mind? You have no way of knowing. You wonder, with a sudden, chilling thought, am I dead? Is this the afterlife? Did I die in that pit, and is this some strange, purgatorial dream? The soldier nudges you with his boot, a firm, solid impact. No. This is real. The pain is real. You are alive. But the person who was thrown down that hole is gone forever. You are someone else now. A survivor, a ghost who has clawed his way back into the world of the living. And you have no idea what the living are going to do with you. The two soldiers haul you to your feet, your arms draped over their shoulders like a gruesome trophy. They drag you out of the gatehouse and into the castle courtyard. The shock is so profound it almost stops your heart. The world is a riot of sensory information, a violent assault on a mind accustomed to silence and darkness. The sunlight is a physical weight, the sky a terrifyingly vast, brilliant blue. Colors are so vibrant they seem to hum with energy, the crimson of the new Lord's banner, hanging limply from a tower, the green of weeds already pushing through the cracks in the flagstones, the dull brown of dried bloodstains everywhere. Your brain, unable to process the flood of input, feels like it's short-circuiting. The castle is a scene of organized chaos. Soldiers are everywhere, shouting in their foreign tongue, moving with brisk, weary purpose. They are clearing rubble, tending to the wounded, securing their prize. The air smells of smoke, sweat, and death. You see bodies covered in blankets or just lying where they fell, waiting to be buried. This isn't the clean, heroic aftermath of a battle from a minstrel's song. It's a dirty, exhausted, and brutal cleanup operation. You are a spectacle, a ghost at the feast. Soldiers stop and stare as you are dragged past. They point, they murmur, some laugh. You are a curiosity, a living skeleton pulled from the guts of their new home. You try to hide your face, a sudden, sharp pang of shame cutting through your disorientation. You are nakedly, grotesquely vulnerable. They take you to a makeshift infirmary, set up in what used to be the stables. The smell of hay and manure is now mixed with the scent of herbs and unwashed bodies. Wounded men lie on straw pallets. Their groans a constant, miserable chorus. A man who seems to be a field surgeon, his hands undapron stained with blood, glances at you, gives a curt order to an assistant, and then turns his attention back to a man with a grisly leg wound. You are unceremoniously dumped onto a pile of straw in a corner, out of the way, and then you are left alone. The soldiers who found you have done their duty, such as it was you are now someone else's problem. Lying there, amidst the suffering of others, you begin to drift. The sensory overload, the sudden flood of food. A soldier gave you another piece of bread, which you devoured like an animal, and water, and the profound physical and emotional exhaustion are all taking their toll. You slip into a state that is neither sleep nor wakefulness, a hallucinatory fever dream. In this state, the lines blur. The faces of the wounded soldiers around you merge with the faces you saw on the walls of the pit. The groans of the dying sound like the whispers of the marker. The smell of the infirmary is the smell of your own tomb. You are out of the pit, but the pit is not out of you. This experience of being unable to distinguish between the traumatic past and the present is something modern psychology has a name for. But for you, it's just madness. You thrash in the straw, crying out, fighting phantoms that no one else can see. An attendant comes over, holds you down, and forces a bitter, herbal concoction down your throat. It tastes foul, but it drags you down into a deep, dreamless darkness that is almost as profound as the one you left. Restorative sleep you have had, and you have no idea how long. You wake up slowly. The fever has broken. The infirmary is quieter. Some of the wounded have been moved. Others have found their final peace. For the first time, your mind feels clear, still fragile, still shadowed by the trauma, but the frantic, hallucinatory edge is gone. Use it up. You are still weak, still skeletal, but the fire of a living being is slowly being rekindled within you. You look at your hands. They are still filthy, but someone has bandaged the raw, rope-burned palms. A small act of kindness in the midst of all this brutality. You are a survivor. You have passed through the inferno. You have slept and you have woken up. The question is no longer just what will they do with me? The question, for the first time, is what will I do now? The old you is dead, buried in that pit. A new person has been born into this broken, violent world. You spend the next several cycles you still think in these terms in the infirmary, slowly regaining a sliver of strength. You exist in a strange limbo. You are not a prisoner, but you are not free. You are a ward of the conquering army, a piece of human debris they haven't yet decided what to do with. You learn to be invisible. You keep to your corner. You eat the meager rations they give you without complaint. And you watch. You are a student of your new reality, and your classroom is the stable filled with wounded men. You start to pick up their language, not through formal lessons, but through total immersion in the sounds of their suffering and their camaraderie. You learn the word for water, pain more. You learn the names of the guards. You learn the curses they spit when the surgeon probes a wound. Your brain, starved for so long, latches onto this new information, absorbing it with surprising speed. One day, an older soldier, a man with a scarred face and kind eyes named Gregor, sits down on the straw beside you. He doesn't speak your language, but he points to your leg, which is still a swollen, discolored mess, and then mimes a falling motion. He's asking how it happened. You try to explain. You use the few words of his language you know, supplemented with gestures. You point down to signify the pit. You make a motion of being pushed. You say the name Sir Renaud and spit on the ground. Gregor seems to understand the gist of it. He shakes his head, a look of grim understanding on his face. He says something, and the only word you catch is one that sounds like Oubliette. You are stunned. He knows the word. He knows what that place is. It's a chilling realization that this particular brand of cruelty is not unique to your old lord. It's a concept that transcends language and borders. There's a quiet debate among historians whether the term Oubliette was a common, widespread term or a more literary, romanticized one. Gregor's casual use of it suggests it might have been more common vernacular than some scholars think. He then points to a deep, wicked-looking scar on his own arm and tells you a short, brutal story of a past battle. You don't understand all the words, but you understand the meaning. He is sharing his own story of survival. It's a small, profound moment of connection, a bridge of shared trauma built between two strangers who can barely speak to each other. As you get stronger, they put you to work. Light duties at first, fetching water, cleaning bandages. The work is humbling, but it's a blessing. It gives you purpose. It makes you useful, and it allows you to explore the castle. You walk the battlements, looking out over the familiar landscape of your hometown. But it's not familiar anymore. It's a view seen through different eyes. You feel a profound detachment, as if you're re-looking at a place you once read about in a book. The person who lived down there is gone. One day, your duty takes you past the gatehouse. You pause, looking at the door to the room that housed the entrance to your tomb. A new, heavy bar has been placed across it, and a sign has been nailed to the wood. You can read the words, but you know what it means. Keep out. Danger. They have sealed it. They have sealed your grave. You stand there for a long time, just looking at that door. You feel a strange mix of emotions. Relief that no one else will suffer in that darkness. Fear, a phantom chill crawling up your spine. But also a sense of ownership. That was your place. Your crucible. The place that destroyed you and remade you. Your attention is drawn to a crack in the stone wall near the door. It's just a fissure in the mortar, meaningless to anyone else. But to you, it's a landmark. You know this wall. You trace the crack with your finger. It's a tiny, insignificant detail in a massive stone fortress. But it's your detail. It's the one piece of your old world that you can connect with your new one. It's an anchor, a single point of continuity in a life that has been shattered into a million pieces. You touch the crack, a silent acknowledgement to the person you left behind in the darkness. Then you turn and walk away, leaving the past sealed behind a bolted door. As your body heals, your mind begins the slower, more treacherous process of sorting through the wreckage. The memories of the pit are a constant, humming background noise. Most nights, you still dream of the darkness, of the faces on the wall and the phantom taste of moldy bread. But during the day, you learn to function. You are a quiet, diligent worker, and the soldiers mostly leave you alone. You are the one from the hall, a local curiosity who has become a part of the castle's new furniture. Your past life, the life before the fall, feels like a distant country. You remember your father's face, but it's like looking at an old, faded portrait. The emotions connected to it are dull, distant. The person who loved that man is gone. You are a different being, forged in isolation and silence. But there is one memory, one single frame from your old life, that remains stubbornly, vividly clear. It's not a momentous occasion. It's not the day you were arrested or the face of your accuser. It's something much smaller, much simpler. It's the memory of standing by a river on a late autumn afternoon. You were a boy, maybe 10 years old. The sun was low in the sky, casting a golden, honey-thick light across the water. The air was crisp and cool, smelling of damp leaves and wood smoke. You were skipping stones. You had found a perfect one, flat, smooth, and just the right weight. You remember the feeling of that stone in your hand. You remember the specific way the light caught the ripples on the water surface. You remember the sound the stone made as it skipped tee-hip, 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 plonk for skips. In the memory, you are completely alone, and you are perfectly, contentedly happy. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated peace. Why this memory? Why this insignificant afternoon out of a whole lifetime of experiences? Psychologists who study trauma sometimes talk about anchor memories or touchstone memories, seemingly random, often sensory-rich memories from before the traumatic event that the mind holds on to with incredible tenacity. They are not necessarily the happiest or most important memories, but they represent a state of safety and normalcy. They are the before that gives the after its terrible context. This single, crystal-clear image of a boy skipping a stone becomes your most precious possession. It is the one piece of your old self that the pit could not touch, could not corrupt. The faces on the wall could not reach it. The hunger could not devour it. The darkness could not extinguish its golden light. When the nightmares come, when the feeling of the cold, damp earth threatens to overwhelm you, you retreat to the riverbank. You hold the memory of that stone in your mind. You feel its weight, its smoothness. You watch it skip across the water again and again. It is your sanctuary, your private chapel. It represents everything you lost, but it also represents everything that cannot be taken away. They could take your freedom, your name, your health, your sanity. But they could not take that one perfect sunlit afternoon. You find yourself wondering about Sir Renaud. Is he alive? Did he flee when the castle fell? Is he rotting in a ditch somewhere? You find, to your surprise, that you don't care. The burning hatred you felt for him has cooled to ash. He is a character in a story that happened to someone else, to the boy who was not yet the man who had found the perfect skipping stone. Sir Renaud could not touch that boy. He is irrelevant. You are no longer defined by the injustice done to you. You are no longer the man who was forgotten in the Oubliette. You are the man who remembers the river. This final, clear frame of your past is not a chain holding you back. It's the one solid piece of ground upon which you can begin, slowly and carefully, to build a new life. Months pass. The seasons turn. The brutal efficiency of the new regime transforms the ruined castle back into a functioning fortress. The scars of the siege are plastered over, and a new, disciplined rhythm takes hold. You have become a part of that rhythm. You are no longer the skeletal ghost from the pit. You are just a quiet, hard-working man with a pronounced limp and haunted eyes. You have a job. Gregor, the old soldier, took a liking to you and got you a position in the castle's leather workshop, mending saddles, harnesses, and boots for the garrison. The irony is so thick you could almost choke on it. You have, after all this, returned to your father's trade. The first time you hold a piece of leather, the smell rich, earthy, and familiar is so overwhelming that you have to sit down. It's the smell of your childhood, of your past, of the person you used to be. But it's not painful. It feels like coming home, but to a home you've never been to before. Your hands, which learned the grim geography of the pit and the brutal art of hunting in the dark, remember the old skills. You work with a quiet, intense focus. The feel of the tools in your hand, the pull of the thread through the AWL hole, it's a language your body still speaks fluently. It's a connection to your father, to the boy by the river, that is tangible and real. The other men in the workshop are a mix of the conquerors and a few other locals deemed trustworthy or skilled enough to be useful. They are rough men, but they are fair. They only care if you can do the work. And you can. Your work is clean, strong and reliable. You earn your keep. You earn a grudging respect. You still don't talk much. You are a man of few words, fluent in the language of silence. But you listen. You learn. You watch the way people interact, the way they joke and argue and grieve. You are learning how to be human, one small observation at a time. You've abandoned the tally marks, the desperate counting of cycles. You now live by the sun and the seasons like everyone else. You watch the sun rise over the battlements in the morning and set behind the hills in the evening. Each sunset is a small miracle, a gift you never thought you would see again. You have found a strange, quiet peace in the simple, predictable rhythm of the days. You are no longer trying to reclaim your old life. You have accepted that it is gone forever. You can never go back to your village. The people there would see a ghost. They would not understand who you are now. The man who was thrown into the Oubliette and the man who climbed out are two different people, and there is no bridge between them. Your past is no longer a source of torment, nor is it a sanctuary. It's just a story. The story of how you came to be here in this workshop, with the smell of leather in the air and the sun on your back. This process of finding a way to integrate a traumatic past into a functional present is the final and perhaps most difficult stage of survival. Historians can document the physical ordeal of prisoners, but the long, quiet journey of the mind afterwards is often lost to history. It's a battle fought in silence, with no witnesses. You have found a way to live with your ghosts. The faces on the wall are still there, in the back of your mind, but they are quiet now. The marker has nothing more to teach you. You have learned his final lesson. You survived. You are no longer waiting for anything. Not for rescue, not for your old life to return. You are simply living, mending a strap, watching a cloud drift by, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face. You have reconciled yourself with the passage of time, no longer fighting it, but flowing with it. You are a man who was thrown away and forgotten, but you have found a way to remember yourself. Not the person you were, but the person you have become. You have found a fragile, resilient peace. You are in the workshop as the sun goes down. The other men have left for their evening meal, but you often stay a little later, enjoying the quiet, the way the low sun filters through the high window, turning the dust motes into a swirling galaxy of gold. You hold a piece of smooth, finished leather in your hands, its surface cool and supple. You are not thinking about the past. You are not thinking about the future. You are simply present, watching the light fade, and in that moment, something shifts. It's not a dramatic event. There is no sound, no sudden vision. It's a quiet, internal realignment. The memory of the boy by the river, the one with the golden light on the water, rises in your mind. But it doesn't feel like a memory anymore. The golden light from the workshop window merges with the golden light on the river. The past and the present dissolve into one another, becoming a single, continuous stream of existence. The boundary that you have so carefully maintained between the man I am now and the man I was then simply dissolves. They are the same person. The boy who skipped the stone, the youth who was condemned, the creature that starved in the dark, the survivor who learned to limp, and the artisan sitting in the quiet workshop, they are all you. They are not separate chapters of a life, but intertwined threads in a single, complex tapestry. They look at your hands, at the scars from the rope and the calluses from your tools. They are not marks of trauma or survival anymore. They are just the topography of your life. The lingering pain in your ankle is not a punishment, it's just a feeling, like the warmth of the sun or the coolness of the leather. This final stage of healing is something that has no name in your time. Centuries later, people might call it integration or post-traumatic growth. It's the point where a person stops being a survivor of their trauma and simply becomes a person who has lived through it. Historians can chart the fall of castles and the movement of armies, but this silent, internal journey is the most private and profound of all human experiences. The nature of this resilience, whether it is an innate gift or a skill forged in the crucible of suffering, is a question that will be debated for as long as humans endure hardship. You feel a profound sense of peace settle over you, a lightness you have never known. It's not happiness. It's not joy. It is acceptance. The darkness of the pit is still a part of you, but it no longer has any weight. It's just a shadow, and a shadow can only exist because there is light. You are no longer afraid of the dark. You are no longer desperately clinging to the light. They are two parts of the same whole. Your consciousness, which was once a tiny, terrified spark in an ocean of blackness, now seems to expand. It fills the workshop, flows out the window with the last rays of the sun, then merges with the quiet evening sky. You are the river. You are the darkness. You are the river. You are the river. It is all one. And so the story comes to a close. The echoes of the fortress, the memory of the pit, the quiet strength of the survivor, they all begin to fade, leaving only the gentle silence of your own room. The journey is over. Let the details drift away now, like dust motes settling in the last light of a fading sun. The world of stone and shadow softens, its sharp edges blurring into the comfortable darkness around you. Feel the weight of the blanket that covers you, a gentle pressure that is grounding unsafe. Listen to the soft, steady hum of the fan, or the quiet breathing of the house, a constant, peaceful rhythm that has replaced the sound of footsteps and the whispers of ghosts. That steady sound is your anchor now, a lullaby for a mind that is ready for rest. Your own breathing is a quiet tide, pulling you gently away from the shores of wakefulness. With every slow exhale, feel a little more of the day release its hold. The thoughts and worries become distant, unimportant, like the concerns of a stranger in another land. You are safe here. You are home. The darkness is not a prison, it is a soft, warm blanket, a quiet haven for dreams. There are no walls here, only peace. Allow yourself to float dark water, drifting deeper and deeper into the gentle embrace of sleep. Let the story go. Let the world go. There is only this moment, this quiet, and the promise of rest. The end of the article. Good night.